From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to OpenLine. I am Ben Hall on Wednesday night. Very good show tonight. Happy to have with us Nashville Mayor Karl Dean, and there's plenty to discuss. So I invite you to call in with any question you may have for the mayor. We can talk about the budget. The budget process is going on right now. Anything else you want to discuss? Mayor Dean, thank you for being
Ben.
here.
Good to be here.
Happy to have you on once again. Glad you're going to take calls. Let's start with the budget process. You're going through that right now. All the departments are coming, presenting the budget. Where do we stand? You've asked for, what, a 3% reduction?
You know, we have done that, well, we've done that every year since I've been mayor, and, you know, certainly during my first term, you know, I was elected in September of '07, took office in '07. Shortly thereafter in '08, unrelated to my election, the country went into the deepest recession that is known since the Depression. And so for at least 3 years of my first term, those were tough budget years, and we made a lot of cuts. And, you know, when I could see that today when I looked at the figures for each department in terms of the number of full-time employees they have. Most of them are well below where they were when I took office, when I came into office. But even after the recession ended, we have always asked departments to look for cuts. We think it's a good thing to do to look for savings. There's always areas to save. There's probably fewer than when we took office. We've asked for 3%, which does not mean that all departments will be cut the same. It doesn't mean that all departments will even be cut. But we think it's an exercise that is sort of the prudent thing to do, and there's always some savings you can find. And other departments, of course, almost all departments are asking for additional things, to improvements, as they would call them. So
the hearing started Monday. They'll conclude Thursday, April 16th. The Board of Education is the last.
Right. The board, because, you know, they actually do their budget and request a number from us, and then we give a number to the council, and so they're always the last. And then, of course, their budget is so dependent upon what the state does that the more time we have to know what the state will be putting into education, the better able we are to do that right. So we've almost always done schools a couple weeks after we've completed the rest of the metro departments.
What do you see at this point as far as schools are concerned? You've funded schools at the level they've asked for, generally speaking. What about this year? What do you foresee this year?
Well, I think, you know, there will be some sort of gain, improvement on their budget. I think that's important. It's the #1 issue facing our city. Dr. Register has been great to work with. We've had several conversations already about the budget. It's too early for us to announce a figure, but I think we'll be able to work our way through it. The schools have clearly made progress, and, you know, Jesse is leaving in June. And I think he's going to be missed. He's done a lot of really good things for the city. He's been a strong administrator. I think you look at, you know, the best way I can describe what he's done is you can look at schools like McGavock and Maplewood, that when I came into office, those principals of those schools were being placed there by the state. And now we're at a point where he's brought in people himself to run the schools, and they are different places than they were 7 or 8 years ago. And you can look at where McGavock stands in the community and what the quality of work that's being done there, and I think that's a real tribute to Dr. Register's leadership. And, you know, we haven't agreed on everything. We've had more than our share of disagreements, but we've always had a very good relationship. We're able to talk to each other, and, you know, we both have the same goal, which is to move the city school system forward. And I've enjoyed working with him, and I think the city's going to miss him. And I certainly want to say thank you to him for his service.
We're getting several calls. I want to go to those in a moment. One of the things we talked about on the show is Sounds Ballpark. We had Charlie Tigert on a couple of nights ago, and he was critical and concerned of the fact that it's $10 million over budget. He said it may be as much as $15 million over budget. What is how did that happen? How did that ballpark come in so far over budget?
Well, the amount of money that is over budget is $10 million. And the budget, you got to remember, when we did this, this moved very fast. We had a deadline that we had to work with, and we gave the best figure we could come up with for a project that had to be completed during a certain time period. And there were certain elements that I think contributed to beyond just unforeseen things that you wouldn't know until you've done the design and done a lot of the fundamental work, which hadn't been done when the council voted on this. But you had, number one, if you look around Nashville, you see a lot of cranes, you see a lot of construction going on. The cost of doing construction has gone up a bit. We went through a period of some really bad weather, which had some costs associated with that. We also had to do more remedial work to the soil in that area for environmental reasons, which was another cost factor. There were improvements put in the stadium that the Sounds are paying for. So, the $10 million figure, that's how much more it is than what we said it would cost. But the cost to us is $8 million more. And then I think the other thing that's important to remember here is that we've identified the sources of funds to pay for this. This is not coming from the general fund. It's not coming from other capital projects. It's coming from funds that are sort of associated with this area, and we're able to handle it. And the other thing I would add, you go through all these debates about doing these projects, and I think this was passed overwhelmingly by the council, is that you can see the construction going all over this area, and the ballpark played a huge part in it. The ballpark will, because of the development around it and other things that are occurring, this will more than pay for itself. I mean, this thing has worked very, very well.
There's some on the council who said it was pushed through too fast, and Charlie Tigard said the project went way too fast without enough study. When you hear that criticism, that was certainly a criticism that was brought up at the time. They had to vote on it fairly quickly. And then here, several months later, we hear it's over budget by $10 million. What about that criticism?
And the Sounds paying $2 million. Let's not forget that. My response is we were not in a position, and we would probably never be in a position where you could come in with every facet of the thing designed, every bit of knowledge about the labor and other costs associated to a booming economy in Nashville, all the environmental things you find when you actually begin the construction, and know all that. I'm disappointed that it's cost a bit more than what we thought it would. But look, I don't control the council. Believe me, I don't make them vote. I can't control when they vote, and I think they voted correctly. They went ahead and got this project done. And I'll give you an example of why this makes sense. You look at the convention center, which had the similar sort of arguments, like we're moving too fast. And believe me, I don't think that went too fast. That was a long year getting that approved. But if you built that same building today, if you delayed it and done more studies, more debates, more hand-wringing and whatever, that would cost $50 million more than it did when we built it. So, I mean, there's something to be said for if you're going to do a project, you do it right. And you do the best you can to bring it in on the number that you think you can. But in this case, because of things we didn't foresee, we'll cover those costs. Again, we have the funds to do it. It's not coming out of the budget. It's not coming out of the general fund. And it's not coming out of other capital programs.
When you look at the environmental concerns, was that the right place? That was another criticism, that was enough time spent picking the spot. And so when you see that there were those environmental issues with the soil, there was a pipeline that was an issue, an unforeseen issue there, was that the right spot, do you feel like?
Well, I feel fully validated that is the right spot. I mean, for me, take the convention center again. When we built the convention center, that was a massive investment. Then you had Omni come in and build the hotel next door. You had the Country Music Hall of Fame, essentially double in size. And so there was about, roughly $1.5 billion or more placed south of Broadway. I thought it was very important that we make an investment in the northern part of downtown. And this is the historic location for baseball in Nashville. And when you see the ancillary development that is occurring as a result of this project, the apartments that are being built, the restaurants that are coming, these are the things that help pay for these projects and for schools and for police. I think it's clearly the right place. And in terms of the selection of the site, I would argue that we spent, and I think the Sounds would argue that we spent more than enough time. We had a full study done. We spent months, if not a year, looking at locations, and this was the right location. And I would also add that when you build something downtown, you are not going to find, in the center of the city, you're not going to find an easy location. If you build it between the two bridges where we're doing the amphitheater, there would be soil issues there. If you built it over in East Nashville, there would be soil issues there. No matter what location you pick in downtown, there's going to be challenges. But I think this park is going to be beautiful. There is not a bad seat in it. It's going to be one of, it's going to be the best minor league stadium in America. It's walkable from Channel 5, which is important to me, and it's going to be it's a great spot. So I would differ with Charlie that was rushed in any shape or form, and it had been studied before. It was studied under Mayor Purcell too, where to put the stadium.
All right, we have one line open. If you want to call, there's the number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-PLUS. We will take a break. We will come back. We'll start taking your phone calls. We'll be back right after this.